Your Words Destroyed My Planet, the stream series, the edited version. Originally streamed live at twitch.tv/dualitiesdownfall. More information in the description. Okay. Chapter 3. You linger in Rose's doorway as you watch her pack up. You keep your cool facade up, but inside your guts are squirming with anxiety. You hate moving, you hate watching people move, and you're not thrilled about not living with Rose anymore. Not to say, of course, that you and Rose living together is always moonshine and rainbows. You can drive each other bonkers. The point is, though, you've never not lived with her. You lived with her even before you were born. Oh my god, they were womb-mates. No, you don't speak English beyond vintage memes and song lyrics and the obligatory swear words that you learn in all languages. So, yes, that joke only works in a language you don't speak, but still. Box, please? Rose says as she hefts all of her books up in one large armful. You already have one pre-made and all taped up at the bottom too, so you hold it out and watch Rose carefully slot her books into place. Paper books are kind of a primo resource, but Rose has always been big on them. Technically, half of these are yours, since you used your allowance of the physical materials to get them, but you don't want them, so it's whatever. With the books in place, you quickly fold the top flaps of the box all around each other and wait for the next thing she wants. This would be easier if she'd let you help pack, but just as you have issues around moving, Rose gets touchy if you touch her stuff. Kanaya's gonna be insufferably happy, isn't she? You too, I bet, you remark as you assemble another box. It's a big step, and I'm glad that we could do it in a way that means you don't have to go anywhere, Rose says. Because you don't want to ever move again. You're going to be buried in this hive if you have any say in the matter. You kind of kill the conversation after that and just industriously pack. Rose has more stuff than most people, but it's still not a lot, so it's not all that long before you're pushing the floating dolly mover onto the train as the two of you head over to Kanaya's place. Or, as you suppose it now is, Rose and Kanaya's place. Maybe it should be Kanaya's and Rose's? That way it's alphabetical and reflects who lives there first. Say, you begin at the doorway where Kanaya is waiting for you both. Is this Rose and Kanaya's hive now, or Kanaya's and Rose's? Didn't you have somewhere else to be? Rose asks you tartly and grabs several boxes. Just an innocent question, you tell her. Definitely not meant to provoke people for your own amusement, I'm sure, Kanaya says dryly and picks up a few more boxes. See, you get me, Kanaya. You wouldn't try to shuffle me off just for asking an innocent question, you say, rather pointedly, looking at Rose, who would do such a thing. Of course not. You are the sweetest and most innocent little bobbeast I have ever met. Surely you would never do any wrong. Kanaya nods, barely suppressing the smile threatening to break through. If you're quite done, I think I need to christen my new hive with Kanaya. My plan for this first begins with rose petals, sensuous... You don't hear whatever else Rose has to say with how you have your hands over your ears while loudly yelling that you can't hear her. It's hard to move the floating dolly by kicking it down the hallway, but you'd rather do that than risk hearing anything Rose has to say right now. The train ride to IT is going to be pretty uneventful, and even with the dolly folded up, you still have to wait by the doors instead of getting a seat, so, you shift your attention to your palm husk. Hey Radia, just word to the wise here, I'm gonna be swinging by your place with Solix in a bit. He's moving in with me and Hal. We aren't gonna run into you and have it be a whole thing, are we? Because I really, really don't want to get in the middle of that. I can't even believe that you guys are really breaking up. You've been together longer than me and Jade even. Yes, I think we were kind of a lot of people's benchmarks for what was a long-term relationship. I won't be there trying to start an argument or anything. I mean, that's something, but still, are you okay? Not really, and also yes. I mean that obviously I'm hurt and sad that we aren't together anymore, but when people were asking about us breaking up during the wedding, all I could think of was that the only thing about that which didn't make sense was that he wouldn't have told me. The rest seemed to make sense. It's pretty unsettling to think that a relationship can just die without anyone noticing. It feels like going down a set of stairs and suddenly there not being the same number that there always was. The whole thing has just thrown me off balance. Shit, I'm really sorry. Are you sure you're cool with Solix living here? I mean, I know I agreed to keep an eye on him if anything ever happened to you, just like you did with me for Jake, but I was hoping that wouldn't happen.
And also that I would be dead in that situation.
Yeah. Not that I'm wishing you were dead.
Thanks.
Look, I'll move him in, but tomorrow the whole crew could drown your sorrows at Tortuga.
Sorrows tend to be good swimmers, so I hear. But I think that might help, so I'll talk to Nepeta about it since I know she's worrying.
There you go. Good old Aradia. Always got the spirit.
Allow me to hit a symbol to commemorate your pun.
Everyone's a critic. Okay, I gotta go, but I'm holding you to tomorrow.
Okay. When your stop comes, you push the floating dolly off onto the platform so it'll actually float again instead of rolling on wheels. The thing is not designed to be a levitating scooter, but it's also not designed to be used as that. You coast easily through the doors of the IT department, to the amazement of absolutely no one, since you guess everyone is in the back office. You lean on the desk and wait, knowing full well that the two of them should be able to see you, and also knowing that if Hal is busy, he'll be pissy at getting interrupted. Somewhat surprisingly, it's Solix who comes out through the door. He's still dressed all formal from the wedding, although, with his unhappy expression, your guess would have been that he'd come from a funeral instead.
Hey man, I've got everything ready to help you move. Rose is all moved out, so we can go now, you tell him. Are you actually alright with me moving in with you? Solix asks, sounding pretty exhausted. I hate moving in general, to be honest, but Rose wanted to be with Kanaya, and you needed a place, so it makes sense. Besides, you and Hal are tight, and we're cool. On top of that, I sure as shit don't hate you enough to leave you on Gamzee's lounge playing for the foreseeable future. No one I know has done anything bad enough to warrant that, you say, with a grimace at the idea. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate the escape from that in particular. Solix shudders. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Karkat's lounge playing would have been fine if Gamzee was away, but then I would have to be dealing with him, so then I'd be pissed off. You moving in with us stops anyone from dealing with him. Except Karkat, I guess, but he signed up for that for some reason. You frown at that thought, but it's not your business. I can only assume sink sponge damage, Solix agrees. Not to interrupt dunking on Gamzee, but I just wanted to say that if you're still packing when the shift is over, let me know and I'll come help. Hal offers from the doorway to the back. You hadn't even heard him open it, the sneaky fucker. Right, we should get going. You nod. Solix makes a noise of vague agreement and waves goodbye to Hal. He shuffles past you to the door and heads on out. Making eye contact with Hal, a look of yikes passes between you both. Solix is clearly suffering from this breakup. Poor guy. Oh, before you go, you can borrow this for his husktop and screens. It'll protect all of it. Just let him pack it and get him to bring it back to work. It's technically not something we're meant to give out, but Hal shrugs and hands over a surprisingly light metal box that's decently big. Thanks for the lack of faith in my ability to safely transport tech, the thing that is a large part of my job. I'm the designated hauling shit around for nerds guy, you point out. Your nerd has already left, Hal counters, and shit, he's right. You put the box on the dolly, then pull the dolly back into the hallway to quickly dart after Solix. So, I have a whole bunch of folded boxes, this thing for your tech, and my big mission bag of nearly infinite storage, you tell him, gesturing to each thing in turn. Okay, Solix says, like he's not sure why you're telling him. Well, my point was that Hal said I should let you use this for your tech, but I can happily pack up anything for you, so just point me at whatever needs packing and we can hopefully get through this as painlessly as possible. Which is probably going to be at least somewhat painful, because moving sucks and breaking up with Aradia is definitely going to suck. You concede. Solix gives you a look that you're not sure what to do with, so you just keep talking in what's starting to be something close to a panic. You're pretty sure you're digging yourself a hole here, and you'd like to dig your way out, but you're not sure if you're actually just digging deeper. The point I was getting to was that if you tell me what you want me to do, I'll do it, and if there's stuff you don't want me touching, just say the word. I can also do none of it if you'd hate having someone else in your stuff, because I get that. I don't like people moving my stuff about either. You go on. Solix is just watching you as you babble. What I mean is I can be flexible here. So flexible. Gymnastic athlete with one of those connective tissue disorders that give you hypermobility kind of flexible. You keep talking. The words just don't stop. Are you just gonna keep going if I don't stop you? He finally asks. Yeah, so please do. I'm a perpetual motion machine of words sometimes. Like, you go on. Shut up. You could pack clothes, maybe? That's easy enough to tell if it's mine or Aradia's, and it's not like I've got anything secret in my closet. He tells you, and you sigh in relief. Yeah, I can do that. I'm really good at packing clothes by now. You nod.
Solix walks into the train terminal before you and looks up at the sign to see when the next train is coming. It's only a few minutes since the train lines that run on every other deck in each direction just constantly circle the ship. You've seen in old Earth movies what trains used to be like. Heavy, slow things that you had to pay to use for some reason, or at least it was a thing when characters hopped the barriers to avoid paying. Solix interrupts your internal train of thought on trains specifically.
So, was it Keke who told you, or did she?
Solix asks, making you cringe a little. You'd sort of hope this wouldn't come up.
Both, but, Aradia first, you admit.
Solix says nothing, but the way that he's just watching you compels you to elaborate, even though you deeply wish you weren't talking about this at all.
She told us, people at work first, just to explain why she wasn't showing up to something.
You go on, kind of glossing over how much and what had been said. As long as he doesn't directly ask you, then you should be okay, right?
What did she say exactly?
Solix asks. Fuck. You hesitate a little. Thankfully, the train arrives, which gives you an excuse to get inside and buys you a little bit of time to think.
Not a lot, really. Just that things had kind of ended and that it seemed inevitable, but was sad. The thing with Hal wasn't really the problem, though. I'm sure Hal's gonna feel guilty for forever. Word to the wise, feel free to hold that over his head for menial favors indefinitely, or you should at least be good for a few years. But yeah, I guess she realized that things had been over for a while, so I figure she thought that meant she'd end it. You elaborate.
She said she broke up with me? Solix asks in surprise. You open your mouth to answer, and then pause as you try to think about it.
You know, now that you say that, I can't remember her saying that. Just the way it sounded like a tough realization she'd come to, and how she didn't mention... Did you break up with her?
You ask. It wasn't as if Aradia had acted like she was the dump bee there.
Yeah, I did. Because she didn't realize that being Hal's date was a favor, but also didn't actually give a fuck. She thought I'd broken up with her and forgotten to tell her, and she just went on as normal.
Solix hisses angrily. You can see the vague aura of his psionics gathering around his head, not yet visible as sparks to the human eye, but with yours it's pretty visible. Ever since you actually reached decent eyesight cybernetically, you've considered it your personal early warning system with psionics. Though, given the subject and how emotional he looks, you didn't really need it here.
Look, I like Aradia, and I'm not trying to shit-talk her here. I like working with someone who stays level-headed and doesn't panic when shit goes wrong and focuses on the present. Those are really good qualities, just in a relationship, I'm trying to think of a term that's not just fucked up here,
you say with a wince. Solix's shoulders slump and his psionic aura fades down. Poor guy looks really broken up about it.
Fucked up works,
Solix says quietly.
For what it's worth, I'm sorry. If there's anything I can do, just say the word, you tell him gently.
You're already letting me live with you, he points out, sliding down in his seat.
Hey, not condemning you to Gamzee is just basic goddamn decency. When I have to be around him, at least I'm getting paid for it, you snort. They couldn't pay me enough to do that, Solix snorts. I've always appreciated your willingness to shit-talk Psycho the Clown with me. I do not know what Karkat sees in him, you tell Solix, who just shakes his head in your mutual lack of understanding. You glance out of the window and frown. With a thought, you drag up Aradia's address from your palm husk so it flickers translucently across your vision. This next stop is the one you need. You get up and head to the doorway and watch Solix realize just what stop you're coming up to and then gets up to follow you. I think he just thinks he doesn't have any other option, and he's stubborn. He does pity Gamzee, I know that, but I can't actually crowbar him out of there without acting like I'm the asshole, and then Gamzee has him all to himself.
Solix says grimly.
Yeah, leaving Karkat with no out from the circus nightmare is a bad idea, but still, there's no accounting for taste, I guess.
You say. The train slows, and when the doors open, the two of you get out. Solix sort of switches to autopilot and leads the way back to his hive, which is fine by you. When he gets to the door, he presses his key pass to the sensor and the door slides open. You'll have to give him access to yours when you get back. Actually, he'll probably be fine to do that himself and won't spend 5 minutes trying to figure it out before Googling it like you and Rose did earlier today when you took her off your hive register. When he opens the door, you shove the dolly towards the little sideboard where the mugs, coffee maker, and small sink are. They've got a little mini fridge, same as you do, but no real space to cook anything. When you lived with Dad as a kid, you actually had something close to a kitchen because all of you needed things like cereal and toast in the morning before school, and it wasn't practical for a father of 7 kids to take all of you out to eat every morning. You know it's more efficient this way. The Atuan works where people have a basic area for coffee and not much else, and all the meals are comped by the ship, and you can get food delivered or through eating out at one of the bajillion food places. But the Phobos, where you were born, was an old human ship. It dated back to the apocalypse, that's how old it was. Things there were different. Aside from it being built like shit, it wasn't designed well. Each housing unit in the place had a full kitchen and place to eat built in with stoves, blenders, microwaves, and everything. You remember having to stand in the stairwell at the end of your floor a bunch of times because some idiot set the fire alarm off in their place. Not to mention that just because you had a fridge didn't mean there was food in it. Like, sure, the fridge was often full, but the things your biological father put in there weren't safe for kids or anyone. You shouldn't be thinking about this just because you thought of a fridge. You turn and give Solix a tight smile, shaking your earlier thoughts off.
I'll get started on your clothes. If there is anywhere I don't know if they're yours or hers, I'll leave them to the side and you can just let me know at the end.
You tell him brightly and quickly walk out of the room to the respite block. You open the doors of the wardrobe and survey the insides. Half of the wardrobe rail is neat and half of the shelves are folded up tight and properly, with the practice of someone who often has to pack clothes into a very tight space and be shot at planets in a rocket to go look at rocks. Unfortunately, you're here for the other half.
Remember to tell the laundry people you've moved,
you shout across the hive, just biting down on the second sentence that was going to fuck everything up. Yeah, shockingly saying, if you don't, you'll just be mailing your underwear to your ex, is not something that'd go down well. In fairness, it is the laundry system. It'd be clean and delivered by the little robots like normal clean laundry, so it's not like buying worn underwear off the shady parts of the internet. Again, also things that you shouldn't say aloud. Instead of thinking about weird shit like that, you start packing Solix's clothes into your backpack. Folding up clothes in neat and efficient ways for packing is such a practiced skill for you that you can zone out a little and just fall into the pattern of work. The only thing that gives you trouble is when you get to his shoes, and you spend ages looking for the other one in each half. You know he normally wears one black and one white, but it takes you a while of looking to work out that he must somehow buy them that way or something. A few things here and there you have to ask him about, like which toothbrush and soaps are his. There's no point taking painkillers and sticking plasters from their medicine cabinet because he can just take some of yours if he needs them. You and Rose sure shit didn't give her 1/3 of that stuff from your place.
Okay, I've got all the clothes except for underwear. All the socks more or less look the same, so I wasn't sure whose was whose, and I wasn't totally sure on the underwear either, and I'm not pawing uninvited through Aradia's underwear or yours. Is everything in here that's not hooktop parts and cables yours? You ask, gesturing to the few little figurines and toys. Yeah, them and all the mugs in the other room that don't have skulls on. I have a blanket somewhere that Kanaya made for me. It's all bee-themed, Solix says, leaning on the metal case that Hal gave you for Solix's husktop. With a click, it closes, and Solix switches to putting the peripheral stuff in a box. I think I saw that by the bed. Okay, I'll grab this stuff first and move out that way after. You nod. You unfold another box and start picking things up here and there, carefully slotting them into the box without damaging anything. As you do all of this, Solix watching you silently, a frown firmly set on his face. Why are you helping me? He asks you out of nowhere. Because we're friends, you say, at the exact same time that Solix says, it's not like we're friends.
The two of you stare at each other in silence for several deeply uncomfortable seconds. Well, they're deeply uncomfortable to you, but what do you know? Apparently nothing, that's what. We've literally never hung out without other people there except for now, Solix says finally. That doesn't... Man, I've known you since I was 13, you point out. You've known Gamzee since you were 13, Solix counters. Why'd you have to remind me of that? And hey, I've spent time with him one-on-one, which, if anything, suggests that spending solo time with another person isn't the criteria for being friends with them, you argue back. We're in the same friend group. That doesn't mean we're friends. It's not that I don't appreciate the help, and it's nice you're letting me live with you and all. I just don't get why, he says. Well, too bad. You're my friend. You don't get to decide if I think you're my friend or not. You can decide that I'm not yours, but here's the thing. I think we are, and we're going to be living together. We can hang out and do friend stuff, like watch movies and play games. We can develop annoying in-jokes and everything. I'll friend zone your ass so hard you won't know what hit you, you tell him firmly. That somehow manages to be the weirdest use of that word I've ever heard, Solix says flatly. You sigh and set the box down on his desk and then properly face Solix. Look, you want the truth? You ask him. Yeah, go on, Solix says, raising an eyebrow like he's daring you. I think we're friends. I'm not lying about that. Sure, you're not my closest friend or anything, but I think we're friends. I know you're a good person, and I am friends with Aradia too. I get what it's like to have dated someone that long as well, and I can't imagine how much this must suck right now. The least I can do is help out when Rose handed me a way to do that. You tell him. By definition, the least you could do is nothing. I get that Rose offered to move, but you could have said no, Solix points out. That'd be a bold move to pull. Besides, sometimes people need help, even if that help is just somewhere new to live because things have gone bad where they are. You say quietly. You know what it's like to need that kind of help. This situation is pretty goddamn different, but there's a reason that you're not going to turn your back on a friend who needs a place to stay. Beyond general decency, that is. Solix looks a little bit like he might argue that point, but you can see him working out what you actually meant by that, and then, at least, he has the sense to bite his tongue on whatever protest he had. Well, thanks, I guess. I can't promise to be a great hive mate, but still, thanks, he says instead. Oh no, man, I'm set on this friendship thing. We're gonna have to rename this ship the Friendship. I'm gonna make friendship bracelets, we can build blanket forts, pop grub corn. You're on a one-way trip to Platonic Friendship Central over here, you say with maniacal delight. Somehow I forgot about your commitment to doing things ironically, and now I'm deeply regretting my decisions, Solix groans. Too late, man. You and me, we're in this together now. Like some old-timey war movie. I'll trudge through the mud in the depths of a country that doesn't exist anymore, like Vietnam or something, to drag you back to the dropship. I won't leave you behind, you vow. Leaving the room, Solix announces loudly and walks off. Hey, at least he's not being sad about Aradia now. That's a point in your favor. You return your attention to boxing up everything on Solix's desk, and when you're done, you grab the mugs that he mentioned before. After that, it's just waiting for Solix to be done with his clothes, and you pass that time by wandering around the main room of their hive and asking Solix if something you see is his or not. In your defense, you catch several things that are his. A lost flash drive, a console gaming system he'd entirely overlooked, and a fossil that Aradia had apparently given him. That last one looked like it hurt to pack up, but Solix still sealed it away in a box with the rest of his stuff. I think that's everything. I hope I didn't forget anything important, Solix says as he has one last look over the room. Even if you have, it's not like you can never come back here, is it? You point out, and Solix shrugs a little. Maybe he just doesn't want to come back here, or it could be that the thought of talking to Aradia again is just too raw. I guess, Solix says, but with how quiet the words are, you don't know if he's talking to himself or you. He opens the door, and the two of you leave his and Aradia's hive, so that it's now just Aradia's hive. She probably doesn't have to move too. Anyone who routinely has to work on planet is afforded a somewhat larger living space, although not so much that you could have held down your place if Rose had moved out. It's not like you want any special perks for your job. You never asked for them. You could certainly do without regular people thinking you're some kind of gallant space explorer or treating you like a hero. Jake drinks that shit right up, but not you. He'd rather not think about it. Not thinking about it.
So, does pizza sound good then?
You ask as you hastily change the subject, even though the other subject had been only in your head.
I don't really care, and after I've set all this up, I'll probably care even less, Solix says glumly. Pizza it is then, you say.
Solix isn't much for talking on the way back. He seems pretty lost in his own thoughts, but when you open the door to your place, he seems to come back online. You watch him as he looks around a hive that he's definitely been in several times before, but he looks at it like he hasn't. But then, maybe it's different when you're looking at a place when you're going to live there.
Rose's block, well, yours is through here. Give me your key and I can get it set to this place. Hal should be able to approve it from work, not that he's got that long left. You check your watch as you talk and see that you're right.
Solix hands you his key cards, floats the box with his husk top in it up, and goes into what was Rose's respite block. It's really not much to set Solix's card up, since you can approve the request, and you can just email Hal to get him to do the same. Really, what you're primarily doing is giving Solix a moment in his new space alone. When you do make your way over there, you make sure to do so with enough noise that he hears you coming. The respite block isn't huge. Rose always left her bed set up as a single, and typically if she was going to be spending the night with Kanaya, she'd do so at Kanaya's place. It can fold out to a double easily enough, but for now that part of the bed is folded under the main part. So, with the bed set out that way, and the desk that Solix is sat at, you can actually walk around the space reasonably well. Which is to say that if you have one hand on the edge of his desk, then the opposite wall is just out of reach. It's bigger than his last respite block, but then he didn't have to have his desk in that one, so that's a toss-up.
Are you unpacking as well, or are you just ditching things? Solix asks from under his desk as he plugs things in. I need to return the dolly at some point, but there's no rush on that. I just didn't know if you'd want me in your space for this long or not, you say.
It's not really my space yet, is it? Solix points out as he snags another cable.
That sounds like a philosophical question I'm not equipped to deal with. If you wanted philosophy ramblings, you've got the wrong Strider, you tell him.
You grab your backpack from the dolly and then reconsider putting Solix's clothes away. You have a better idea.
Here, first rule of moving into somewhere, make the bed first. Then, if you can't manage to do anything else, you can at least sleep tonight, you advise him. That's a lesson you've learned through experience.
Solix pulls out from under the desk, his mismatched eyes wide. Wait, I don't have any bedding that isn't for mine and Aradia's bed. Shit, what am I gonna do? He gasps.
Hey, it's fine. You took your pillow with all its squishy, soapery goodness. You've got your blanket that Kanaya made you, and I'm sure me and Hal have some spare sheets. We can lend you some, it's cool. We're hive mates, it's all good. You assure him, and then step out of his respite block. A quick search of the cupboard by the ablution block reveals plenty of spare bedding, which you take back to him in a big armful. Here, this should hold you until you decide to buy your own. Unless you're entirely smitten by my dog print sheets, which is completely understandable because they're rad.
You grin and toss your sheets at the bed. Solix leans forward and pulls at the sheet to look at the frankly adorable cartoon dogs that adorn the whole surface of it.
Let me guess. Jade got you these? He says flatly.
Wriggling Day gift a few years back, you confirm.
Is Beck gonna be here a lot? I saw the Bark Beast bed out there. I've never lived with an animal, he asked warily. Well, he's here sometimes, but usually only when Jade is here, and not even all of the time then. It's not like he's my guide dog anymore. Not that he was great at that job either, but he tried. Mostly he lives with the captain now, and sometimes Jade. He's retired, she's old, it works out. You explain, although the urge to go find your former guide dog and cuddle him is strong now. Solix looks up at you from the floor, and there's something about his gaze that just has you pinned in place, like he's seeing right through you. As quickly as it came, it passes, and he looks away. At the risk of setting off your stupid friendship argument again, we don't really know each other all that well, he says quietly. I mean, I'm pretty sure you know a lot about me. I know a lot about you, including people that I shouldn't mention, you say, and Solix winces. Even just alluding to Matuna isn't a good idea. To keep your hands busy, you start making the bed. You're surprised when Solix starts talking again, and you pause partway through tucking the sheets in to listen. What about not small talk questions? He suggests. I'll make you a deal. You don't ask me anything about anything specifically from before I got to this ship, and I don't ask about him, you offer. Deal. Solix nods.
You snag his pillow and drop it on the bed with a faint squish sound. You pick up the rest of the bedding and start getting it set up as well.
Name one thing that, no matter how long ago it was, that just suddenly comes into your mind. Something you said or did that just haunts you. I'm talking retroactive cringe from forever ago. Solix asks, and you stare at him in shock. Fuck, man, just go right for the jugular, why don't you? You say. It doesn't help that Solix seems incredibly pleased with this laser-targeted attack on your mental well-being. Alright, well, this is even me doing you a solid, because this is before I got here. So, I was 11 at the time, and I had food poisoning. The how of that isn't important, you assure him, and try not to think about why you ate bad food. The point is that I still went to school anyway, because I had to, and the way our school was set up was that all of our stuff was on these hooks by the door, and you had your own little place. You explain. Like in preschool? Solix asked incredulously. Yeah, it was just like that. It was the weirdest thing. Anyway, so I'm feeling really rough at recess, and I figure I'm gonna go back inside and get, like, a mint or something, because that's meant to help. And, okay, my eyesight was terrible back then, but I still knew my way around, and this wasn't a case of, oh, the legally blind kid couldn't see good. I meant to go to my bag, but I didn't make it, and, you falter. Did you lose your lunch on people's stuff? Solix breathes in something between awe and horror. In this one guy's bag, I panicked because I couldn't get in trouble, so I just booked it back outside and no one ever knew or found out, but I know. Well, Rose probably knows because she's Rose, but oh god, even now I feel so bad about it. You groan and put your head in your hands. Wow, I don't think I can top that. Pretty sure you're only being so forthcoming because of my whole situation, but go on, ask me something. Solix offers, and leans back under his desk to fuss with cables or some shit like that. You finish up with Solix's bedding and even toss the blanket that Kanaya made him on there too, all while you consider your revenge. What is, you start, with appropriate dramatic tension. Something that Karkat thinks is true about you but isn't. The light under the desk strobes a little as Solix presumably blinks and then slowly sits up. That was very specific, and I'm kind of mad that there's something I can think of that fits that, he says slowly. Go on, my tender ears are ready for this scandal, you say, sitting on his bed and waiting. He thinks I really like Cluckbeast, and I don't. Now, don't look at me like that. That doesn't sound big, but it is. I think it's a texture thing. Earth Cluckbeast is worse than Alternian, but I can't deal with eating it. It's the worst, but here's the thing. When we were doing home ec courses and that cultural history of food thing, we had to cook Cluckbeast. Or, actually, I don't even think we had to, but Karkat decided to. He'd been having this awful time. He'd failed some assignment, he was arguing with his Lucis, and Cancri was butting in as well. Karkat was this close to having a complete meltdown, Solix explains. As much as you might joke that Karkat is always a hair's breadth from a complete meltdown, you know the difference between garden variety Karkat rage fits and actual emotional turmoil, so you get what Solix means here. He asked me to try his food, and I couldn't just say no, and I didn't think to ask what was in it. I ate it, and oh god, it was so bad. Karkat's cooking wasn't great, but it was the fact that it was Cluckbeast that just destroyed me, but I couldn't tell him that with how much he clearly needed this one thing to go right, so I lied. I said that it was great, that the Cluckbeast was wonderful. Now I routinely have to eat the fucking thing if I can't come up with a good excuse to get something that I'll actually like, and I've been lying about it for so many years now that I'm completely stuck. He'll take me out to celebrate something, and oh hey, there's your favorite food, Cluckbeast again, Solix explains. Oh man, that's actually really rough. Here, from one friend to another, I'll try and help you out if Karkat suggests it again, and I'm there. You promise. I appreciate it, Solix says. He shuffles completely out from under his desk and floats his screens up onto the desktop so he can start plugging those in. Since you're done with his bed, you move on to unpacking his clothes for him. How about this not small talk question? Solix starts. Oh, shit, I didn't know we were doing more, but go on, you say as you stack folded t-shirts into a drawer. Why did you become a sailor? It's not like you're not smart, he begins. Hey, you have to be smart to do my job. I'm not a specialist or anything, but it's not idiot-proof, you protest. That came out wrong. I meant that lots of people who do your job are in it for the athletic stardom and the whole explorer persona. Either that or they just end up being crazy violent on other planets. Solix corrects himself. That feels somewhat like a specific call out to Jake and then Gamzee to me, you tell him, still unpacking his clothes. No, look, what I mean is that most people seem to get into that because they get something out of it. For AA, it's all about the science, and I'm guessing the same goes for Jade when she goes out there. Jake and Gamzee are pretty much what I said, but I don't get why you do it. You're not a scientist, you're not specialized in anything, and you don't seem to be in it for the ego jerk. It's not like you weren't smart enough to do something else, so why that? Solix asks. You pause, your eyes flickering to the darkest corner of Solix's wardrobe. Well, the wardrobe that up until super recently was Rose's. Your eyes kind of wander that way as you try to think of what answer to give him. It was something I had to do. Besides, if I didn't do it, then someone else would have taken my job, and then they'd be risking things instead of me. Might as well be me, you tell him. That sounds like hoofy shit to me, but whatever, Solix remarks. You don't especially want to elaborate anymore. No doubt he's only asking because he doesn't know. The appeal of the unknown is a pretty big thing for people. You see it in the faces of all the people who try to get the same job as you. Sounds like someone's just jealous of my cool job, you tease him instead of saying any of that. Oh, yeah. Nothing I love more than the idea of launching myself in and out of atmosphere and doing a job that's basically permanent gym class with a bonus chance of explosions, Solix says flatly. I'd rather be climbing a cliff face than asking someone if they've tried turning it off and on again, you counter. Can I compromise and throw people who call us with that off of a cliff? Solix mutters. Looking around, you see his Hesktop boot up problem-free, but that's pretty much what you'd expect for him. You need to think of something else to do when you're both unpacking. Keeping his mind off of Aradia has got to be better than focusing on the fact that he's moving out because they're over. Do you want me to unpack one of the boxes of other things then? I could put your stuff in the ablution block, or you start. I think I'm done with unpacking. If I have to keep doing this, I'm gonna scream. I've got my bed, my Hesktop, and clothes, so that's all I actually need to have right now, Solix says. Oh, sure. We could kick back and watch a movie or TV show until Hal gets back and we can order dinner. Pizza is pretty traditional for moving, or I could show you around, or you say. I've been here before. I know where things are, and if I don't, it's not like the place is absurdly big. I can work it out. I know which rooms are which, and I'm pretty sure I can figure out a shower on my own, Solix says sourly. Shit. Your attempts to try and keep his mood up must have backfired. Well, crap. One last shot. Listen, I know things are rough right now, and you begin carefully. Yeah, so what would you know about how things are? You've only been with Jade, right? And you two are fine. I appreciate this and all, but you don't know, Solix snaps. You sigh and sit on the edge of his bed, trying not to snap back immediately like you want to. He's been through a lot. No, I wouldn't know what that feels like, but it's not like I've never been through bad shit in my life, and you are my friend, so I do want to help. I'm not trying to make it worse, you assure him. Alright then, I've got another question. Are you just letting me stay here as some favor or agreement you made with Aradia? Or did Karkat ask you to watch over me? Solix accuses. Karkat was looking for somewhere for you, but all this was Rose's idea. If you're looking for some grand schemer, it's just lesbian shenanigans, which would probably be the name of Rose's band if she was in one. Aradia didn't ask me to move you into my hive like some kind of pass-the-parcel game, you tell him flatly. Solix deflates a little, like anger was all that was keeping him going there. No one's happy that things went south with you and Aradia, man. We're all completely thrown by it. You're allowed to be pissed or sad or whatever about it. It'd just suck if you felt like you were only here because people felt bad for you. That ain't it, you tell him gently. I don't know about that. Gamzee was pretty happy about it. Karkat shut him up, but that only works when Karkat's nearby to know about it. Solix mutters. Ugh, I do not get why Karkat puts up with him. I really don't. I know why I have to put up with him, but Karkat could just bounce and doesn't. Instead, he's always just making excuses for him, you say with disgust. I've tried to point that out, but it just leads to us fighting. Solix sighs. And that just serves Gamzee. He's better off if Karkat's isolated from everyone. You nod. I try not to do anything that helps Gamzee, so yeah, I don't mention it much. Solix agrees. This took a sharp turn from arguing to shit-talking Gamzee, which, although I'm in favor of that, it sucks to give him this much airtime. You wanna go play games instead? You got a console. I packed it up. We could hook it up and play something, you suggest.
Solix seems to consider this for a moment before nodding and floating up to his feet. The pair of you pick up the console from its box and go into the main room. It's not hard to set it up, and you end up making drinks while Solix does all the tech stuff. Somehow you get the feeling that if you were to get in the middle of that, he'd snap at you. Roxy was like that with her stuff too, especially with Rose, who had a history of borrowing Roxy's things. It's nice that they get on better now. You guess some people just aren't meant to live together. You and Solix kill a few hours with video games and the aimless shit-talking that goes on with competitive matches. You're not as good at the game as he is, but you do get to show him one of your mutual passions that you share with Dirk. Specifically, look how badly I can glitch this game. You even pull him into your room to show him the port of the legendarily shitty Mad Snaxio on your Hustops emulator. I know that shitty music, Hal calls out the moment he's through the front door. Kickflip through the... yeah, you say urgently to Solix, who hastily hits all the right buttons to do what you asked. Hal sticks his head through the door just as yours and Solix's color-swapped characters collide in a mess of limbs and broken bones. The two characters jerk in the air for a moment before glitching through the floor and showing you the whole skybox of the level. The game hangs for a solid 10 seconds before spitting you through a wall and force-closing the program. That's so breathtakingly bad, Solix breathes in awe. It is the single greatest thing my species ever did. Shakespeare who? Cold fusion what? Mad Snaxio. That's the pinnacle of everything. You intone seriously. There's so much wrong with you and I blame Dirk, Hal groans. You always blame Dirk, you point out. And I am always correct to do so, Hal counters. It's just so bad. I know whoever made this game is long dead by now, but I want to delve into necromancy to bring them back and just ask what the fuck. I don't even know how you can make a game this bad, Solix whispers, still staring at the screen. Pizza? You suggest. Pizza. Just let me shower first, Hal nods. Oh, so in an hour then, you tease, and so Hal flips you off and leaves. What was that about? Solix asks. Hal and Dirk used to always take forever in the shower. Hal's better now, but I'm contractually obliged to give him shit about it. You tell him. Of course. Show me that monstrosity of a game again, Solix insists, so with a grin you boot up Mad Snaxio again. Clearly, Solix is a man who appreciates the right kind of trash. The rest of the night is pretty cool. Between you and Hal, you're able to keep Solix distracted enough that the prospect of living somewhere without Aradia doesn't seem to drag him down too much. It's not like you can distract him forever, but if you can make your place seem like a nice new home, then hopefully he'll feel less shitty. Despite your insistence that you and Solix are friends, you know that he's more Hal's friend than yours, so when you have to go to bed early because of work in the morning, you don't feel so bad. You wake up a few minutes before your 0600 alarm. After getting up, you quickly work through your normal stretching routine in the space of the main room and try to center your mind as you go through it. The main room is still a bit of a mess, so you guess Hal and Solix stayed up for a while, which is nice. You hope Solix deals with losing Aradia okay, or as best as can be expected, at least. You have a super quick shower and dress in the complete white of your work uniform. You check your dress shirt in the mirror, since this is a big meeting. The last thing you want is to get called out for not meeting dress standards. Satisfied that you're smart enough, you swing by your normal breakfast place for coffee, whatever fruit they have going, and a muffin the size of your fist. You eat the apple, it must be your lucky day to get one, on the way to your meeting. When you arrive, you take your place with your crew in one of the ringed bench seats that circle the presentation area. The place is going to be pretty packed, and though you know a decent bit of the background of your next mission, you don't know it all yet, and it leaves your insides buzzing with anticipation. Jake catches your eye when he arrives with a few of his crew, and he flashes you a winning smile. You raise your muffin a little as a kind of greeting, and try to ignore how Gamzee follows in the wake of his crew. It always puts you in mind of that old Spielberg film Jaws, as if every time Gamzee approaches, you should be getting ominous cello music. The meeting is big enough that you're getting non-sailors in here, too. You perk up to see Roxy appear, but you also count Tavros, Jade, and a few other familiar faces. Even the captain herself is present, and her entrance causes a scuffle of people getting to their feet, saluting and then waiting until she sits to sit down themselves. It's such an awkward song and dance, and it always seems to amuse her more than anything. Eventually, the meeting starts, and it's Nepeta leading most of it, although her counterpart Polypa, who commands the other half of the sailors, is stood up in the center of the presentation area as well.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming this morning. We have a lot to cover, so let's try to keep on track. This is a vital mission, the importance of which you've all been read in on, Nepeta announces, causing a hush to fall over the room. She taps at the tablet in her hand, and the projector in the center of the room lights up, showing a binary star system. She zooms in slightly more to a planet close to it, and then faces the room again. This is HD 1182b, currently dubbed Somnos by her earlier explorers on the Reaching Liberty. Reaching Liberty decided to gift this planet with this name because she has a lovely habit of putting electrical equipment to sleep. Somnos' own atmosphere has frequent high-energy electrical storms, and even worse, the star she orbits is ejecting mass at an absurd rate, which makes getting equipment on there to stay working and to maintain contact with ships in orbit even harder, Nepeta explains.
Well, that'd be why Roxy's there, then. The engineering department is going to need to know what they're up against.
Scans and primary investigation from Reaching Liberty revealed two key areas for excavation. Base Alpha in the North Hemisphere here, and Base Omega approximately 413 miles away. Both sites have proven rich in titanium, aluminum, rare earth metals, and more. Needless to say, a very valuable resource for extraction. We need more ships, and I need not tell you how much the survival of so many people relies on more ships, Nepeta says gravely. It's a decent system. Ships further ahead in the wave of vessels identifies planets worth stripping. Ones after them get down to the planets and set up what they can and scout about. If they can mine anything before they have to leave, they do, but otherwise they leave it for your wave. Ships at your level take whatever they can from the planets before you have to bail, and with that you repair your own ship and build new ones so people can expand again. Every few years you swap places and trade resources, but it's vital work. As for what's behind you, it's better that you don't think about it. Somnos is a larger Alternia-sized planet. Gravity at about 1.5 G, so nothing too bad there. The temperature is pretty arctic, but well within what our winter gear can handle. Before we get there, we'll be running cold weather training again, just so it's fresh for everyone. The atmosphere is breathable without any problems, so that's good for us.
Nepeta goes on.
The planet has oceans and land, but it's all covered in ice either way. Both sites are well inland, so there's no water equipment needed. There's a bit of a fauna problem, a few apex predators,
Polypa says seriously.
Oh, sure, we can skip to that bit. There.
Nepeta smiles and flicks at her screen. The projected area in the center of the room fills with the images of several large animals with very nasty-looking teeth. You sit up a little straighter in your chair and focus on the images. The scale in the corner of the photos suggests that on all fours, these things are easily your height, if not more. Obviously, the ideal interaction with any alien animal is no interaction at all, but if these things are interested in you, then that could be bad. The creatures aren't outright hostile, but the crew of the Reaching Liberty said they seem territorial. The camps they've left for us seem to be in a safe spot, so it just seems wise to keep everyone armed and in sensible group numbers. Nepeta and I have assigned the groups as follows. Alpha Crew is going to be partnering with Gamma, Polypa says, meaning you and Jake are together. Beta Crew will be protecting Delta. In addition, both groups will be accompanied by at least 2 engineering specialists, assigned terrorists on each team to be determined for the geological work, and due to the unusual nature of the storms, we'll be needing communication specialists too.
We'll also be assembling Team Epsilon. The Reaching Liberty left us with a space station at elevator orbit, with the tether waiting on Somnos to be attached. We will be dropping 2 ships as we approach Somnos, which will meet up with the space station here,
Nepeta explains as the ship's projected trajectories tick through the air.
The Atuan will then slingshot around in a round trip that will take 42 days. Once both of our cruise ships have docked with the station, Epsilon will remain behind and act as managers for the station and incoming freight, as well as relaying analog transmitted communication from the 4 crews down on Somnos back to the Atuan. Epsilon will be responsible for processing the extracted material from Somnos and launching it towards the Atuan's final approach path so it can be collected on our return. Engineering and telemetry will be ironing out the details for that in your own meetings, Nepeta explains, and you watch as the Epsilon team nods in understanding.
Our 4 remaining teams will recharge the ships and descend to Somnos, heading to each base respectively. Once there, it'll be your jobs to assess the situation of the equipment that is left and resume mining operations as soon as physically possible. The team at Alpha Base will reconnect the tether as those at Omega Base get set up at their location, Polypa explains.
Exactly. Best case scenario, the automated mining droids have kept going and we have a huge stack of ore and materials processed and ready to be sent up. Worst case, everything has died and need fixing first before we can continue. We're just not going to know until we get there, Nepeta says grimly. That's not a margin of error that you like, but there's nothing that can be done about it. You sit and listen as the individual assignments are broken down. Jade is going with the other group instead of yours, which kind of sucks for you, but you'll probably get more work done if you're not getting distracted talking to her. Aradia is with your group. The other group gets Cuprum, which means you...
And Vicare with Gamma and Alpha, Polypa reads out. You jerk upright at her words and quickly look around at Aradia, who looks just as concerned as you. Gamzee seems surprised, and Fazer doesn't look especially pleased. If all of you agree, then this is clearly a bad idea.
Permission to speak, sir? Aradia asks before you can.
We don't have much time for Q&A right now, Megiddo. If you have an issue with the assignments, you can talk to your sergeant later. Polypa dismisses her. Oh, you're definitely talking to Nepeta.
You sit uneasily through the rest of the briefing as they explain the details of the temporary satellite station just above the planet to try to pass communication between the Atuan and the planet below. If it's close to Somnos, then it can hopefully have a better shot at finding signals through the troublesome atmosphere and communicating it back. The details of how they plan to do that are going somewhat over your head. All in all, it's a short mission. The Atuan slingshot gives you a solid 3 weeks to get what you can and get out. Hopefully, the machines left on the planet have managed to run what they could on autopilot, but given how crappy the electrics behave there, you're going to assume the worst and hope to be pleasantly surprised. Roxy is called up to give a presentation on the equipment that's going down with you and the basic problems she anticipates with the machines that you're inheriting from the Reaching Liberty spaces. After that, it's a reminder about cold weather training and then some physics shit for the space math nerds, not information that concerns you. When the presentation lets out, you, Aradia, Gamzee, and Fazer all hang back. We can't have Vicare. He's a liability, Aradia insists.
It's nothing personal. The guy is nice and everything, and he knows his stuff, but you start.
He spends all his time repairing tech on the outside of this ship. We need his specialized skill set. Tech breaking on us is our biggest liability here, and it completely hamstrung the Reaching Liberty's mission. I hear what you're saying, and I understand your concerns. If this were any other mission, then I'd put more consideration into an alternate, but we don't have that kind of time. And while he's still an option, I can't put the resources into getting someone else, and the mission cannot be scrubbed. Too much is riding on this. I'm not changing anything here, Nepeta says, not allowing any argument.
You grit your teeth, but you nod. You warned her, and that's all you can do. Her job is to make these calls, and if it's a call she's made, then you can't argue with it. If we watch him, then it should be fine, Fazer says to you. Easy for him to say, since he gets Cuprum.
Dismissed, Nepeta says firmly.
Sir, you all say together, and leave. This is a shit show, you grumble as you and Aradia walk away from the meeting area.
I'll try to talk to him, see if I can't set him on a better... Aradia pauses midway through her sentence.
Dave!
Jade's voice reaches your ears, and you look around to see what Aradia had clearly spotted before you. Jade is coming over.
Hey, I was waiting for you. Did Nepeta need you for something?
Jade asks as she comes to a stop by you. Not much. We were just discussing teams, Aradia says before you can.
Yeah, it's a pretty big mission. I don't know how much room there's going to be for exploratory science in with all this strip mining, which kind of sucks, but at least I get to see a new planet before it vanishes.
Jade sighs, her disappointment turning to optimism. That's something you really love about her, the way she can just look at any shitty situation and find something good in it, and if she can't, she has faith that something better will happen eventually. It's not a kind of optimism that you grew up with, but it's always been refreshing to be around. Maybe one day it'll wear off on you and you'll be more like that.
I think that I asked too many questions, and Nepetta's gonna send me to the gym to do push-ups as punishment. You'll have to call the vet, Jade. These puppies are gonna be sick, you say, straight-faced, and flex your arm. Jade snort laughs and shoves you away by the face.
Where do you come up with this? I'll never... Oh, wait. Sorry, Aradia. I wasn't meaning to be all, what with Solix and all. I heard about that. I'm really sorry.
Jade's happy tone shifts into something sadder, and you wince a little. You probably could have saved that very excellent joke for later.
It's fine,
Aradia says softly.
No, really. I can't imagine how awful it is, and if you need to talk about it, we're here for you. Hey, if you want to do a girls' night out, we can. Maybe take your mind off of all of it,
Jade suggests.
That's sweet, but this was kind of inevitable. I didn't realize it, but me and Solix had grown apart. I still love him in the vague way humans use the word, but it's not really romantic pity anymore. It all changed without either of us realizing. But now that we know, there's nothing else we can do, and crying about it won't help. I'm just glad that he's living somewhere good now. I hope it won't be too hard on him,
Aradia says solemnly.
Aradia?
Jade says, barely above a whisper.
You suppose that Jade is dealing with the same problem the rest of you have been dealing with, that Aradia seems too easily over it, but it's hard to know what to say. You don't want to demand that she lose her shit just so you can see her being appropriately upset. Still, you're going out with her soon, so maybe then you can get her to talk about how she's really doing.
I should get going, Aradia says, and neither of you want to stop her.
That can't be healthy, repressing everything like that,
Jade whispers.
Yeah, we're, trying to work on that. You grimace.
You and Jade watch Aradia walk off in silence. It's pretty shitty to be in the middle. Solix is your friend, but Aradia is part of your crew, and there's a bond in that which you can't dismiss. You want them both to be okay, but you're not the one who's good at meddling in relationships. You'd ask Rose, but you're not sure that airing other people's dirty laundry is a great move either.
I wanted to talk to you about that, actually,
Jade says, and drags your attention back from your thoughts.
About Aradia? You ask.
No, well, sort of. Solix is living with you now. What gives?
Jade asks.
He's in Rose's room. She's all shacked up with Kanaya now, and it's still 3 people in our place, so we get to keep it. You explain.
Why did Rose move out, though?
Jade presses you.
So she could move in with Kanaya, and so Solix could move in. It was that or Gamzee's lounge plank, or Karkat's lounge plank with Gamzee looming over him. And I think Kanaya would prefer that Rose not be living in a room that Solix was moving into. You point out. You can picture Kanaya's displeased face, actually, and it's hard not to laugh.
Why didn't you move out? And I'm not asking why didn't you move in with Kanaya before you start. Why didn't you offer to move in with me so Solix could have your room?
Jade asks. You frown at her. Jade is looking somewhat annoyed, although she seems to be trying not to look like she's annoyed with you.
I think you maybe have this a little backwards. Solix crashed with Karkat and Gamzee. He didn't want to keep doing that for obvious reasons. Karkat went to go find him somewhere to live, and Rose suggested this. It meant we could keep our place, and she gets to live with Kanaya, which I know she's wanted forever, and Solix has somewhere to live. She asked Hal and Solix and then me. I was the last step in that process. You explain.
Jade stares at you in silence for several seconds, takes a breath, and then speaks again. Why, if moving was on the table, didn't you ask to move in with me? I know Rose offered first, and you've said before you didn't want to move because you'd lose the hive, but if Rose is moving, Jade says slowly.
We weren't going to lose the hive because Solix is moving in. We're 3 people. If I left, there'd be 2.
You tell her.
But if Rose is leaving, why couldn't you leave as well?
Jade asks, not letting it go. You start walking, but Jade's still with you, of course.
If I did that, then Hal would lose the hive.
You tell her stiffly, continuing to walk down the hall.
He could move somewhere else, with Solix even. They wouldn't make them move until there was somewhere for them to move to,
Jade reasons.
I'm not making my brother have to move. I'm not making him pack all his shit up in garbage bags and forcing him to move just because I decided that he could get fucked and be left on his own. I don't want to move. I hate it. You know I hate it, you say tersely.
That's not what I said. Hey, stop walking.
Jade grabs the sleeve of your uniform and pulls you to a stop. It's not like before where you'd have been leaving Rose and Hal behind. If Rose moves and you do, then it's different. Or why didn't you insist that Rose stay and you move in with me if you're so set on keeping them in your current place?
She goes on. I don't want to talk about it, Jade. It's not an option, and Solix has moved in now, so let's just drop it, please? You ask hopefully.
I just don't understand why. Jade presses you.
Yeah, you don't. You don't understand because you've only ever lived here where your grandmother is the captain of this whole ship. You've never been bounced from place to place at a moment's notice having to shove all your things in a bag and go. I absolutely hate moving. I'm not doing it again. The only reason I moved out at Dad's place is because he couldn't keep it with so many adult kids who didn't live with him. Roxy wants a space that's just hers and doesn't want to share, so that's fine. Rose wants to be with Kanaya, and Dirk is with Jake. It was just me, Rose, and Hal, and Rose chose to leave, which is fine, and with Solix moving in, me and Hal don't get forced to move all over again. We wouldn't get a choice, and I'm done with not having a choice about that, and I won't do it to anyone else. So, yeah, Rose wants to go, and Solix didn't have a choice about leaving, so of course I was going to help. I'm not arguing about it. I hate arguing or talking about this, so I'm just not going to, you say in a rush. You hate it, and you feel sick just thinking about all this, which is why you work very hard not to.
You're clearly upset, Jade says carefully.
She's mad at you. She has to be. You're being irrational. You know Rose talks about this and how you should do something about it, but nothing needs to be done if everything just stays as it is. You're fine. You think? You snap and instantly regret it. Sorry, you say quickly.
I'm sorry too. I didn't want to make you so upset. I just don't understand this, but clearly this isn't a good idea to talk about right now. I just wish you could move in. I've got the space,
Jade says softly. Can we not? You ask, trying not to sound like you're begging.
Right. Sorry. I guess I'd better get back to work then. Good luck with your 1,000,000 push-ups,
Jade says as she backs off and then walks away. Oh, that did not go well. You should probably message her later when your hands aren't shaking ever so slightly. It's not like you and Jade fight. That's about as bad as you get when she presses on something you're touchy about and you have to get her to back off. It's fine. You're fine. You don't have to move. No one's making you pack up and go in a hurry. You're a grown-ass adult. Damn it, 1,000,000 push-ups sounds way better than thinking.